the Lamborghini. Now remember, the Lamborghini runs in Group GTC. The Ferrari runs in that same class. Steve Ruston that's there in 6th position, so over the start-finish line they'll go. Chalking lap number 1 into the book goes Richard Chamberlain. Graham Tilley in a straight line is looking to try and take 4th place away from Lucky Cristoforu. No, not quite, but that Nissan looked very rapid in a straight line.
That's surprising, isn't it? Yes, that's quite surprising.
It's not unsurprising that the Team Arginetta of Chris Proser that qualified 6th in the wet conditions comes through in 7th at the end of the lap, because in the wet the Ginetta has always been a very good car, and in the dry the more powerful cars can utilise their power, so it was always going to struggle to keep up a little bit. So,
no, the John Seal car isn't bang on the pace, but I rather suspect he's taking it gently because they've rebuilt the thing from the ground up and it may not be quite straight yet.
First few laps will be the confidence builder that you need, isn't it? And then after that, yeah, then you can start to push on a little bit more. And a little bit late, of course, leaving the pit lane, and only now do the 2 Top Cats Marcos Mantis cars come over the start-finish line, which is Sander Mortensen, the number 3 car, followed by Frank Mortensen. So they are, what, the best part of 25 seconds almost adrift of the car ahead of them on the grid. The race leader is about to flash his way very shortly back into sight again, and it is Richard Chamberlain with a decently quick orange Porsche that is going to lead the race. Opportunity here to have a go at the race leader as they come over the start finish line. In fact, he's pushing it ahead. Ferrari, then it's Lamborghini from Ferrari, of Graham Tilley, then the McLaren, who's getting great variety in the GT Cup, and this season is no exception. Over the start-finish line goes to Richard Chamberlain, looking to try and hang on to the lead. Remember, he's already had some 4 wins overall so far this season, but 3 of those have come in the sprint races. Only 1 has come in the endurance race.
Started it. I think it spat slightly on me in the pit lane just earlier, but I think we'll get through this race all right. It's when it rains round about halfway through the pit stop race, that's the problem.
That's when it gets very tasty, doesn't it? Yeah, so race leader heading in towards the braking area for the left-hander and Agostini. Through the left-hander, still Richard Chamberlain out front leading the race. The FF Corsa Ferrari announced Dan Deziel tried to hunt him down, the Ferrari 488. Of course, a new car for Dan for this weekend. Then it's Tom Webb's Lamborghini that's there in 3rd position, but he's got a queue of cars sitting behind him, or not that far away, which includes the second of the 2 Ferraris. So Lucky Cristoforu might have a change for the lead here. Dan Deziel looking to try and squeeze his way up the inside, heading in towards Williams. Richard Chamberlain having none of that at all. Snaps across the nose of the Ferrari, hangs on to the lead of the race, but probably compromised his run onto the top of the Bentley straight as a result of that. Dan Deziel sitting in the slipstream, but in a straight line, Richard Chamberlain just has the advantage, and all of a sudden the Ferrari just gets that little bit further away as they head now down into Brussels and Nelson, and now we do have the change of the inside going to Brussels. So on the exit, they swap back again. Great stuff. Richard Chamberlain is still going to be in the lead of the race, despite the fact that he did, albeit very, very, very briefly, lose the lead of the race, because Dan Deziel was so quick through Brussels, he had the inside for Nelson, but carried a bit too much speed, and as a result of that, was slower going out. So thank you very much. I'll have to lead back. The start finish line now come, and who would have known Jock Simpson that we just had a lead change, because it's still Chamberlain that leads at the end of the lap. Tom Webb going through in 3rd position. Now it's Graham Tilley who's up into 4th place, so he's got himself through and ahead of Lucky Cristoforu, and Graham Tilley still getting used to that Nissan, but certainly is well in at this stage. The fastest lap of the race so far has actually got to the chasing Dan Bazile with a 1 minute 56.606. Now, that 1 minute 56 crumbs. That was 13 seconds quicker than they managed in the wet qualifying this morning. So, just going to show how much conditions have improved to what they were this morning. Out of what is the infield section of the circuit, Agostini up towards Hamilton, and Richard Chamberlain here, Jock. I think he's having to soak up the pressure, isn't he? Because Dan Bazile is not going away, is he?
He doesn't understand the concept. Talking of that, I just wonder when the Seal car goes. Is it with us still?
John Seal, yeah, he's still circulating. Yeah, either that or he's stopped in the third sector somewhere. There he goes.
Yeah, I didn't see him go through.
All is not well with that.
Reduced speed.
Yeah, all is not well with that Lamborghini. It is definitely, yes, not performing as you would expect. It's about 4 seconds slower on that lap than it's previously done. But maybe the spots of rain on the windscreen won't be helping the confidence of John Seal very much. They should come back into sight any second. Yep, still Richard Chamberlain leading from Dan Bazile in second place. Have we had the change for third? Yes, we have, because Graham Tilley in the Nissan is now up into third place. Down to fourth goes the light blue Lamborghini. Because he's got Mackie Cristoforo not too far away, and we'll have the second of the two Ferraris. So through and over the start finish line go the leading pair. Graham Tilley now up into third position. Graham Tilley, first weekend of racing in that Nissan, getting used to it, but on a potential podium.
We're looking good. They've always had a bit of time for this.
Yes. Use from Chris Dawes.
Yeah, just popped down to JMH just to find out what the, the fact that there's clearly an outstanding issue with that car. And they said, yeah, absolutely, just a slight niggle that we've not been able to sort out yet with just literally running out of time. But we need to get it out there, get round, get the points, as much points as they possibly can. Get it in, and then hopefully with the couple of hours they've got before the longer race, that they'll have it sorted by then.
Black, and thanks Chris, black and white flags for warning of track limits going out to 2 cars, one of which is third, which is Graham Tilley, which is Mackie Cristoforo. Needs to be careful. 12 and a half minutes just over of the race to go. The race leader is on lap number 5. As for group leaders, well, leading the race overall in leading group GTO is Richard Chamberlain. Second in the race in leading group GTC is going to be Dan Bazile. Leading group GTH at the moment is number 44, McLaren of Steve Ruston. That leads group GTH, which is the GT4 homologated cars. Leading group GTB, now it's number that probably scoops up, other than the actual Group GTA leader, which is Ginetta, who's in the hands of Chris Proza for this race, so that's a scoop up the race leader without the stage of the race, Jock Simpson, where there's traffic coming into play just up the road for Richard Chamberlain to deal with.
Yeah, I was interested to see that the first of the 2 Marcos sausages has done rather well. That's catching up.
And all of a sudden, Graham Tilley slows going over the start finish.
Yeah.
He was in third. He's already slowing down the wall. Yeah, coming out of Richie's corner. That car is getting slower and slower and slower. And if he can limp it round to the pit lane, I think that's where he will end up for the rest of this race. But the point is, can he even make it round to the pit lane? Because the car is, clearly has got an issue, and I think he's pulling the car off. Yeah, the exit of Wilson off to the left-hand side of the circuit. Graham Tilley, who was running in third place, now pulls the XRJN Nissan off to the side of the circuit. That's a big shame. It had been going reasonably well, hasn't it? So yeah, that's another one we've lost, sadly. Graham Tilley now out of the race. But for the overall lead of the race, Richard Chamberlain was leading by just over a second. It was 1.035 of a second that Richard Chamberlain led by. Running their way at the moment. Still the same. The Ferrari just having to do make him in second better.
Yeah, we seem to have also lost a little bit of time in at least Dale Shelton as well, the 71 car.
Yeah, he's gone missing.
He's leading GTB.
Offers up a few possibilities, but there's a lot of them that we can't actually see, but I can see right now. There's a wave green flag, so that will be covered. The bits of the circuit that we can see, and the cameras that we've got, no obvious signs of a FEMA. So over the start finish line go the leading pair. The gap has been brought down again by Dan Dazil on that lap. It's down to now just less than 0.6 of a second. Some of that may well have been to do with the traffic, Chris.
Graham Tilley, they believe.
Thank you very much. So at least shed some light on the retirement of the hugely unfortunate Graham Tilley. As for Richard Chamberlain, he's still having to stick his elbows out to try and hang on to the lead of the race.
That's a bit unfortunate also for John Seal, because that gives him one less car in GTO, which is going to limit his point scoring ability a bit.
What, with Graham Tilley having retired? Yeah, is it the number of cars that start the race, though, is it? Based on numbers of starters. So I think the way the regulations are, three starters in a class means that you get 25 points if you win it. If it's 2 starters, it's 18, and if it's 1 starter, it's 15. So it's at least the car did start.
I'm glad you read the regulations. I was just checking there.
Thanks, John. Chris, what else have you got?
Yeah, updates Dale Shelton. Obviously, was doing so well leading GTB. Basically, I told you that they're actually not having 36. This is their entry to 46, and it's the first time for God knows how long that it's been out there. And so it's sort of like a very sophisticated test session, if you will. And suddenly something changed, and felt a vibration, and they just said, forget it, don't push it, don't cause some damage, pull off. And so it's just pulled off with a vibration that felt very wrong.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for that. So that's why we're now on that. Through over the start-finish line goes Richard Chamberlain, and the lead advantage increases because Richard Chamberlain has just popped in the fastest lap of the race. 53.878, and also gives him an extra championship point, doesn't it? He gets an extra championship point if you set the fastest lap of the race.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, it's my natural expression.
What have I done now? Yeah.
So Richard Chamberlain now increasing the lead to 2.1 seconds. Second place. But still, for third and fourth position really, the Tom Webb driven Lamborghini, which is still sitting there in third place, still under intense pressure from the second of the 2 488 Ferraris that we've got in the field, which is Lucky Cristoforo's car, who, despite all of his best efforts, he's been shadowing the Lamborghini, but has not been able to steal the place away as yet. But he's bringing out what he's now, is again within touching distance. Any mistake at all from Tom Webb and Lucky Cristoforo would be through, and they are fighting actually over second and third in Group GT. Is Steve Ruston at the wheel of the McLaren. Chris Proser leads Group GTA in 6th place at the wheel of the Dale Shelton BMW. David Franklin at the wheel of his Porsche 911 inherits the lead of Group GTB. So that gives you the relative group leaders. Chris?
Yeah, I was just sort of picking up on that GTB though, and you see that the Marcus Massey's number 3 of Mortons, and that's the 2. Closed in quite rapidly.
Yeah, he's 26 seconds adrift though, and there's only 6 minutes to go, so the rate of close at the moment is not going to get it there, I don't think. The start finish line goes to the 5-4. But I was thinking suspicion that Lucky Cristoforo might have picked up a penalty here, because there's now a symbol at the side of his name. There's a ball being held out. Just come up on the side. Yeah. 5-second penalty for Lucky Cristoforo. Yeah. So they're battling away on circuit, John. But in reality, Lucky Cristoforo Cristoforo is now 5 seconds further adrift of the Lamborghini than otherwise it was.
Limitations thing has been a thing for so long now. So I expect that's what it's for.
It is, yeah, it says track limits, yeah. You get away with it the first time, the second time you're given a warning, and if you do it the third time, then you get the 5 second penalty. If you do it the fourth, then you should be getting the message when you get a 10 second penalty. And if you do it the fifth, penalty, and should you be silly enough to do it the sixth, it's a black flag, isn't it? And then you go, I think it's something like that the way it works. So it sounds slightly precocious, but adopted in the UK for several years now. But yeah, Lucky Cristoforo has fallen foul of those. Richard Chamberlain still leading, 4.5 minutes to go. The gap is back down again. Seal is not giving up his aspirations to at least keep Richard Chamberlain honest, which is what he's been doing largely all race really. Over the start finish line comes the race leader, the 935, which is a bit like Trigger's Groove, isn't it really? The Richard Chamberlain 935 jockey. It's been developed many times over the years. We've got many original developments on it, but it's always been a quick car, isn't it?
I think it might just possibly still have the original car. It goes back to 1973 911L or something. It's extraordinary bit of kit.
It's great. I love it. In the championship last year, largely because of the fire the year before, and it took Richard so long to find the parts, engineer the parts, and bring it back.
It's also been helped a little bit by the fact that now the factory long distance long time Porsches are running the engine and gearbox configuration the same way as that. So otherwise it might have been almost a little bit too special.
Of course we do. The lead of the race heads up towards Oggies. They're on lap number 10 now at this stage. Tom Webb still there in third place. Penalties to be added. I don't think that will actually affect his position. I think it will just drop him further away from the Lamborghini, but he's got so much time in hand between himself and the Steve Ruston driven McLaren that's in fifth. There's 21 seconds between the two of them. So West expects Ferrari. The Lamborghini's not getting any slower. It's not getting any quicker though, is it? Is the unfortunate thing. But as you said, you know, he's trying to make sure that he gets points. Whilst he is now several laps adrift, he is championship points. So it's worth limping around still, isn't it? For those 18 points, they could be important at the end of the year.
Well, I'm sure it will. It must be incredibly frustrating just to be cruising around, keeping out of trouble and looking in your mirrors, but he's done a good job. Yeah. And the team have done a good job because it might have damaged the car, but it did an awful lot of damage to the scenery as well. So,
well, I didn't even expect to see the car out, so it's 18 yeah. Great work by JMH Automotive, and it gives them the chance now to get the feedback from John, almost using this as a test session to know what they need to sort for the endurance race later on, the pit stop race. So the clock now showing there are less than 2 minutes remaining. Dan Seal, who is not giving up. Dan Seal has just posted in second place the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far. A 1 minute 53.7 as he looks to try and close in ever more onto the coattails of Richard Chamberlain. They're just heading around through Hamilton now. The orange Porsche still just ahead of the Ferrari 488. There's traffic on the road. Dispatching the lap adrift. They should get over the start finish line with there still being a few seconds remaining, so I think it's just penultimate lap for them. Just seems to have the upper hand over the Ferrari. The gap between the pair of them throughout the course of the 3 miles is pretty consistent. Where you look at it at the same point of the circuit, but it does fluctuate a bit, and it certainly fluctuates when they pick their way through traffic. They've got 2 cars that they've just had to lap. Tomcat Racing, Marcus Pounding, and they go round through the Murrays with 30 seconds to go onto the final lap of the race. And this is it for Dan Dazeal. If he's got anything else that he can throw at Richard Chamberlain, Jock, he needs to do it on this lap.
looking quite determined, didn't he? Okay. I thought he was going to have a go around the outside there. That didn't look entirely feasible.
Yeah, he was just a bit too far back, wasn't he, really? There's another opportunity into the braking area for Murray's, but again, for Murray's rather than Wilson, but again, he's just too far back. So Ferrari's still behind the Porsche as they accelerate their way up towards the left-hander at Palmer, flick their way through the left-hand, and then from there it's the short straight that brings them up towards the braking area for the left-hand hairpin at Agostini. Still more traffic up the road as well. Porsche 911 is fighting away with Brent Village's car. Squabbling over what is 9th and 10th places, both of those Porsches in separate classes. Richard Chamberlain has his lights ablaze, and at the wheel of his orange Porsche, even with its lights turned off, you can't really miss it. An orange Porsche with its lights on, yeah, there's not really a great deal of excuse, but I'm sure they will spot him in the mirror. He might just get caught by the Porsche towards the end of the lap. Down the Bentley straight goes Richard Chamberlain. So he's thankfully just got the straight line speed.
Just coming past you, the Fraser Smart at Boris, I think, looks very slow, doesn't it?
The Lotus, yeah. So it's going slowly again. It's another one of those that's just limping its way round by the look of things. That is now dropped down into 13th position, and that puts it 4th now in Group GTB, that Lotus. Not race leader, just heading through the traffic. He's managed to get a back on speed. That's the deal. So Richard Chamberlain is on for another win. That is going to be win number 5 of the season for Richard Chamberlain, and his 4th win in one of the sprint races so far this year. Down the hill finishes just a second and a half adrift of him in the end, and actually on that last lap Richard Chamberlain was pushing because he set the fastest lap of the race despite the traffic. 1 minute 53.106 for Richard Chamberlain, so he made sure he grabbed that extra championship point. Sanders Hill in 2nd position. 3rd is Tom Webb over the start-finish line, doing a busy old race really, with Lackey Christopher Goring finishing in 4th place. Remember, Lackey at the wheel of the second of the 2 Ferraris, carrying a 5-second penalty because of transgressing circuit limits, but that means that he will still finish in 4th because the 5th place McLaren is a long way adrift, and only now is heading round. John Steele limps the Lamborghini over the start-finish line, so it would have been John suggested a very frustrating and boring race really for John Steele, but a 14th place finish and 2nd in Group GTS.